Hello, hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my face, my card making space, and a shaker card. A regular shaker card, not a flat shaker card. I don't do regular shaker cards very often. This one just called for it with what I was using and all of the things. So yeah, shaker card, glittery texture paste, a rainbow of watercoloring with distress inks, all the fun things. As always, I will have links to everything I used in the description box below the video. So you just click on to expand it. Everything will be listed, linked. My links are affiliate links. That just means that if you click on one of my links and end up placing an order, I do get a little kickback from that at no extra cost to you. It is what helps pay the bills and keeps the heater running and keeps the videos coming. So that's it for the housekeeping. Let's get into the card making. So I started with the background with the stencil because I wanted this to have time to dry while I did everything else. So I just have a piece of very light blue cardstock and I stuck it to one of my Picket Fence paper inking palettes. And then I'm using the On a Cloudy Day stencil and the Twinkle Light Silver paper glaze Luxe that love. This littler one is part of a trio, like a sample pack basically. And so they're smaller containers. It is available in a normal size container, which is like twice as much product. So I'll post links to both. This is definitely one where it's like, ooh, I need to get more of this. Because I'm already going through this container. It's not lasting me long because I just keep reaching for it. So anyway, I applied the paste over the stencil. As soon as I'm done, I'm going to scrape off my palette knife, put the lid back on, and then I'm immediately going to go clean my stencil, wipe off the paper inking palette, and let that background dry. So while that's drying, I've cleaned everything else up. I then pulled out the, it's called Soft Landings stamp set, and it's got all these little hot air balloons, and it's super cute. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, it's perfect for doing like a rainbow of colors because you've got, multiple images. So I used all but one of the hot air balloons. The only one I didn't use was the heart-shaped one, which I could have fit. I didn't think they would all fit on an A2 like card front. So I just chose all these ones and I'm stamping them onto some distress watercolor paper with VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. And this time I didn't heat emboss the images. Usually when I'm going to do any sort of watercoloring, I will stamp and heat emboss my images because I liked the raised edges. They're my little bumper pads, But like I said, this is going to be very simple watercoloring and anyone can do this. And I'm only doing one color per image. So I felt like there was no need to do the heat embossing. And for the watercoloring, I'm using distress inks. These are great for watercoloring. Love. They're just... You can use almost any water reactive ink for this. I've done it with a bajillion different inks over the years. The distress inks are definitely the most unique in terms of like formula and everything, but a lot of them work. But yeah, most people, crafters have distress inks, so I highly recommend. Play with them some more, watercolor with them. And yeah, one color per balloon. And I just use my little water brush. You could also use just a little paintbrush, dip it in water. That works too. And that's it. I meant it when I said this is very, very easy watercolor, beginner friendly. You just swirl the, wet brush in your ink. And I guess I should explain that. I smushed just the very edge of my ink pads onto a non-porous surface. It's just a little plastic palette I've got. I'll have a link to it. But any sort of non-porous I've shown over the years, I've used like the stamp packaging. Anything like plastic basically will pretty much work. So I smush the ink pad and then I just pick up the color with my wet brush. Super simple. And with this, since these are smaller images, I just, like you saw, I only used the edge of the ink pad. I didn't need to like press down the full ink pad because that just would have been redundant, way too much ink. And then, yeah, I just painted it. So you just pick up the color, apply it, and then just kind of keep pulling it out with the wet brush. And as the color gets applied and there's less color like on the brush and becomes like more water, that's what gives you the little lighter areas. And so I just kind of, out of habit for the most part, I just started at the kind of upper left of all of these images, so like the strongest concentration of color, and then just kept pulling it down towards like the bottom of each balloon. This one I did a little oopsie because I wasn't paying attention, started applying the green when I shouldn't have, but you can do one of two things. Do what I did and I just kept painting over it with the blue, or you could take a piece of paper towel and press it quickly to that area, and the paper towel would absorb that, the wrong color of ink, and then repaint like over top of it. That works too, but again, it was such a small area, and since it was green and blue, it's like, they mixed together. It was fine. So I worked my way through. I'll have all the colors I used listed, but it was kind of my go-to rainbow combo, which is picked raspberry, carved pumpkin, mustard seed. I went with broken china this time, mowed lawn, and wilted violet. So once I was done painting these, I decided they needed some sparkle. So I had let them dry already, which didn't take very long because, again, I, didn't do anything too intense with these, and I didn't add like a whole lot of water. But everything was dry. And then I'm using my Nouveau Aqua Shimmer pen, which just applies like clear sparkle. It has a binder in the pen, so you don't need to use a sealant. I never do. A little bit of it will kind of come off like during die cutting and assembling the card, but not enough to bother me in any way. As of right now, and it's been like this for a while because these are made by Tonic. These Aqua Shimmer pens have been sold out for quite some time. I'm still waiting on them restocking. I have backups because I love these. So I'm just being a bit of a jerk to everybody, like showing them in videos when you can't get them. But they will restock them eventually, and then we'll all be happy because they're pretty. They look like absolutely nothing right now. But then I'll turn the flashlight on and you can see the sparkle. And this is why I love them. My inner magpie is very appeased by those. So there's Wink of Stella, and Spectrum Noir also makes some. They're also very pretty. My personal favorite is this specific Nouveau Aqua Shimmer. But those will work too. Though the thing to remember is because you're applying it over something that's been painted with Distress ink, it is like water reactive. But if you move quick, apply it, it was fine. So then I let that dry as well. Die cut those images with the coordinating wafer dies. And then the other die set I used is the A2 Cloud Peekaboo cover plate die set. So the cover plate portion I had die cut from white cardstock, and I tried to show there on screen it's got stitching detail around the border, like around the edges, which is really nice. My camera was just like, nope, focusing on the balloons, pretty sparkly rainbow. So I die cut that. I had die cut that from heavyweight white cardstock, and then I used some of the little sentiment dies that are part of that set, and I die cut those a couple times from just scraps of black cardstock, and then layered them together with some craft tacky glue just to give the sentiment a little extra dimension. So I worked my way through those die cut pieces, and then it was at this point that I decided to make this a shaker card. I wasn't gonna originally, and then I couldn't resist because I don't make shaker cards as often anymore. I either prefer to do like a flat shaker or I just skip it. But this cover plate die was so perfect and it would look so nice. So I was like, yeah, I'll make it a shaker. So I flipped it over, and on the back of it, I'm applying a very strong adhesive. This is just some Altenew Ultra Sticky Tape adhesive. And then I have a piece of acetate. Pretty much any type of acetate will work because it doesn't really matter. Like, it doesn't need to be heat resistant or anything like that. Just something clear. And I've cut it down to the same size. This panel is A2 size, so 4¼ by 5½ inches. So my acetate is just slightly smaller than it. And I remove the backing from that adhesive and then press that acetate into the adhesive. So now I've got the front of my shaker with the window. And then I'm going to apply the background that I'd used the cloud stencil on. So to make it a shaker, I need foam strips. And I'm just using some narrow foam strips here, which are so convenient. Back in the day, that was another reason why I kind of quit doing shaker cards, because back in the day, we used to have to trim our foam tape into strips. You know, we used to have to walk to school barefoot uphill both ways. Life was a challenge. But legit, we had to, get even more creative. And now we've got products that just take care of the time and effort, and so much easier. Anyway, I applied the foam strips again around the perimeter of this panel along the back, and making sure that all the pieces are like touching each other so that there's no gaps, so that nothing can fall out. And you can also, if you want, like fill in kind of the areas on the back here with foam tape that are covered by the cloud die cut. I didn't bother. I kind of, because I wanted the sequins to kind of, they'll kind of hide behind that. And then when you shake it, they sort of pop out. So I left it just with the border of foam tape all around the perimeter. And then I removed the backing from the foam tape. And this is important. I removed the backing before adding my shaker bits. Because if you add the shaker bits and then try to remove the backing to the foam tape, you're going to have a hot mess because it's going to move around and kind of bounce around with removing the backer. And then the sequins and whatever you're using are going to stick to the foam tape. And it just, trust me, remove the backing first, then add the shaker bits, which my shaker bits are Picket Fences On a Midnight Dream shaker mix. And I just, because I thought that like the darker blues in that mix would be kind of a nice contrast to the background. And then I pressed my background into that foam tape to seal everything up. And that was it. That made the shaker. So we'll come back to that in a minute. I wanted to do my card base and stamp the inside of my card first. So my card base is a top folding A2 white note card, so 4¼ by 5½ inches. And I took a piece of Post-it tape and just stuck it right where the score line is so that I don't get any ink past the score line. And I decided to stamp all those hot air balloons with the same distress inks that I had watercolored with. And yet again, this ended up being something where I was like, this would be a really cute, clean and simple card front. Because I don't do clean and simple, really. You know, I like to add everything but the kitchen sink. But the insides of my cards, more often than not, could easily be a clean and simple card front. And these balloons look really nice stamped in color. Like, I was so pleased with this. And I was like, darn it. If I had more time, I would have made another card, like, basically just this. And then, I don't know what I would have done on the inside. Probably just stamped them again. So anyway, I went around and stamped the balloons with those ink colors. And then I stamped a sentiment from that same stamp set onto the inside with the Nocturne ink. So now the inside is done. And now I can adhere the shaker card front to the card base. So I put craft tacky glue on the back of this panel and then got that adhered. And I actually let it sit I put a couple of big blocks on top of it and let that sit and made sure like the glue was fully effused, you know, everything's adhered, we're good to go. So once that was adhered, now I just need to start sticking all these little sentiment bits and whatnot onto the card front. So I'm going to adhere the sentiment pieces with craft tacky glue. And I did not forget the eye. I did, but I don't. Hindsight, you know, I remembered it after I got the sentiment adhered. So I had the dots to the eye, the little die cuts, in my little tray. Because I like to just adhere those separately rather than attempt to stack those together. And I don't even want to admit how many years of card making it took me to figure out to just adhere them directly onto the card front. I've got old videos in my library of me trying to adhere teeny tiny little die cuts together before I can adhere them to the card. So anyway, I will realize that I had missed it. So I've got all my little hot air balloons and I'm going to start kind of arranging them in rainbow order. There we go. I remembered. See? It's a little dot of glue. Stuck one in. Added another little dot of glue. Pick that up with my embellishment wand. And the sentiment is complete. So, for all of the little hot air balloons, I am going to do a combination of just thin foam squares and the ultra sticky tape. Because some of them, or a couple of them, I'm going to kind of tuck behind the frame there. Like, tuck them in the clouds. I thought that was kind of cute. And then the other ones I'm just going to pop up with some thin foam squares to give even more dimension. Because once I've created the shaker card, it's like might as well go big or go home and add even more dimension. So adding little bits of the foam adhesive to the back of these and then sticking them into place. And once I got everything adhered, I felt like there was too many open spaces. I don't know. It was just kind of bothering me. So I just grabbed a little baggie of confetti from my stash, and it came in a kit something. I'll link to some, like pretty much the exact same ones, but I stuck some of those on there, and these they look very blue purple on screen. They are, but they're more iridescent and they kind of reflect that color. So I'm going to adhere some of those into place with craft tacky glue just to kind of add to the shimmer sparkle goodness and just plays nicely with these little hot air balloons. And then once these are adhered into place, this card is complete. So we've got shaker bits and stenciled glittery texture paste background, and you can't go wrong. There's something about the sound of shaker cards too that's really appealing. And then yeah, little sparkly bits, my flashlight here just to show the sparkle again, and then all the rainbow colors, you know, mimicked on the inside, which is always super fun. And then yeah, that cloud stencil, love. That texture paste, love. Like the Twinkle Lights paper glaze Luxe, so much fun. So much fun. So that was my card. Like I said, all the links are in the description box below the video. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and I will see you all very soon in another video. Bye. Thank you so much to my amazing Patreon supporters. For anyone that might be interested in joining my Patreon community and supporting me, the link to my Patreon is in the description box below the video. For everyone else, as always, thank you all so much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping, commenting, subscribe if you haven't, I'd love to have you. And here's a couple other videos for you to check out in case you missed them. Bye!